So I'm going to go ahead and get going. For my reference point, how many of you were in my afternoon session yesterday? Okay, good. That's actually, it's less than half, so that makes me feel a little bit better. I did not want to bore the folks that were in the session yesterday with some of the same stuff today, but what I'm doing today is I'm going to take some of the slides that were in yesterday's session and build on those. I had a couple people ask me, what are we going to be spending our time about in today's session? Well, first of all, I want to make sure we're clear on the downside of seeing human error as a root cause. You know, Mark made the comment in his presentation that most of us have moved beyond the blame culture. But do we make sure that when we do investigations, we are keeping human error out of the equation in terms of root cause? And I'm pretty sure you are, but we want to make sure we cover that. More importantly, what I hope to share with you today will help you on the audit side of things, the proactive side of things. If you saw the three things that came out as the top three items with the little audit that Mark just did, I said to Althea, my partner, Mark just kind of teed up this presentation because all three of those things are consistent with what we're doing here. To start with, there's that advanced use of Taproot, if you want to call it advanced use of Taproot. If you were with me yesterday, you know that I'm an advocate for using Taproot daily. All right? Now, I may not do formal investigations daily. In fact, I would not. I'm not going to complete a root cause tree daily. But you know what I'm doing daily? I'm capturing causal factors. Because causal factors happen every day. And it bothers me when people only use Taproot on reactive incidents. In other words, we're going to wait for something bad to happen to tell us where we need to improve. Very bad way of looking at things. So instead, I would like us to look for ways to proactively go after our systems. And I think a lot of you guys get that, but where I see a lot of challenges are on the needs improvement root causes in particular. Now, I've been fortunate in life. First of all, Mark and Linda blessed me with being able to be a contract instructor for Taproot 14 years ago. I've had the opportunity to teach almost 400 classes and 10,000 people. Do you think I learned a little bit doing that? I learned tons because I get to teach a lot of public courses up in Western Canada in particular, where we have multiple companies there sharing their stories. And you know, everybody's good at something. And when you start communicating with your customers, listening to your customers, you start hearing some best practices. And there's some cool stuff going on right now. It's just a matter of finding those folks and sharing that information. The other thing, though, that we see, that I have seen is in my 18th year as an examiner for the National Performance Excellence Award in the States, and that's called the Baldrige. And as a Baldrige examiner, I get to look at both applications and go on site visits to some of the best organizations in terms of sustaining high performance in the United States. And so I see some great practices there too, and they all tend to mesh together. All right? But it bugs me in particular when our fixes are weak. And that's what drives me nuts. I'm an industrial engineer. I'm a time freak. I was raised on the operations side of things. Value is important to me. You know, what I get for what it costs. And when I see people investing hundreds of hours in incident investigation only to come up with 2 or 3 super weak fixes, I have to really wonder about that. You guys ever think about that? Have you done anything to try to maybe stop that in your organization? Because you guys know what I'm getting at, right? I've seen near-miss fatalities, and the corrective action is review at safety stand-down. See, that doesn't jive. You know, your mix of corrective actions should be consistent with the potential severity of the incident, not what actually happened. And do you think just simply reviewing something with people is going to change behavior? Probably not. See, that's what we're trying to do, is change behavior. You know, Mark has been studying that all along. As an industrial engineer, I've been studying that. As a plant manager, I studied that. And you just can't ask people to change. Rarely can I ask myself to change and have that change happen. I have to come in and put in systems, what I call my daily habits with the tracking system and all kind of things, to force myself to be consistent with change. And that's the other piece of the top 3 things Mark had on his list. First, are we doing advanced Taproot on proactive stuff? Are we going out and looking for causal factors? Second of all, can we show the effectiveness of our efforts? And that's a big thing in the National Performance Excellence Award. Can you show the effectiveness of the safeguards that we use? How many of you measure the effectiveness of your tailboard meetings? How many of you use tailboard meetings? Now, come on. You guys use tailboard meetings, right? Anybody do the math on how many dollars you spend a year on tailboard meetings without measuring the effectiveness? How about JHAs, job hazard analysis, job safety analysis? You guys spend some time creating, modifying, and reviewing those? Do you ever review their effectiveness? Yeah. Some folks are starting to, aren't they? Some folks grade them, score them, give feedback to the people that created them, work to drive up their quality over time. Other companies I work with, I say, imagine the weakest job hazard analysis you've seen written in your company. Now imagine the best. How big of a gap exists between the best one and the weakest one? You ever thought about that? But we use safeguards religiously, and really the light bulb came on with me when I went to one of our Taproot customers up in Canada to do an on-site course. And at lunchtime, we're in the cafeteria, in the break room in the plant, and on the wall, they've got this big old board, and they're tracking something. And of course, anytime I see somebody tracking something, I got to go, what the heck is going on? Well, they're tracking safeguard use. And so they had 14 different safeguards they used at this site, either daily, weekly, or monthly, to help keep people safe, like audits and tailboard meetings and inspections and training, and you guys know the litany, right? And they were religiously counting every day how many times we use these safeguards. And you could see it up there on the board. But what were they not measuring? How well they worked. So think of the dollars they're investing in preventing human error, but could they get the same benefit or better with a reduced time investment? See, that's value. What do I get for what it costs? And there are best practices out there. I'm going to share 6 areas with you here today. But why do people goof? What happened here? And how many of you have seen this before? Anybody? Ah, cool. I need to bring it back out. Randy saw it. Yeah, because you've been involved in Taproot for a while. You guys figure out, this is from down where I grew up. I grew up in Arkansas. Okay? And this is from a customer complaint at one of our Walmart stores down in Arkansas. Now, how could something like that happen? Chance for insert joke here. Right? Exactly. They did exactly what the customer asked for. But what you'd want to think about here is, what was the process? Right? Because what's the weakest process here? This is a telephone order, by the way. Mrs. Smith called in her order to her local Walmart. Said, I got a friend, Suzanne, she's going away. I want y'all to make me a going away cake. Okay, well, how you doing there, Miss Jones? What kind of cake would you like? Well, I'd like white cake, white icing. Okay, well, what kind of design? Oh, floral design. Okay, great. Well, what would you like on that cake? Well, I'd like that cake to say, best wishes, Suzanne. Underneath that, we will miss you. Okay? Now, on a pure verbal phone order, did anybody do anything wrong? Did they do, per Ken Turnbull, as one of my mentors, did they do what they should have done? Put the correct message on the cake? No, they didn't. We're not blaming the employee, just they didn't put the message on the cake they should have. So if you had to make an improvement, a fix, what would it be? What would be the first change you'd suggest here to keep this from happening again? And you can't fire the Walmart worker. Who's got one? Sorry? Oh, yeah. Well, somehow get the order in written form, right? And in today's 21st century world, we might text that in. But you got to remember, this is rural Arkansas and Walmart. So Walmart's okay. It's the rural Arkansas piece I worry about. But no, you could text it in because written is better than verbal, right? Use repeat back. That'd be a great idea. Ken?
How about ordering a blank and then writing it yourself, but then it would probably be spelled wrong in Arkansas.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. Now, really the best result is, well, we just need to write a procedure and they need to follow a procedure. And procedures should say use repeat back. No, that's not good enough. We want to start stacking those safeguards. We want to make it form-based, right? We want to have some means for the customer to verify their order. Repeat back, or like this fast food restaurant Althea and I went to the other day up in Seattle, they actually, innovation, it's not really an innovation, but they turn the cash register like they do in Tim's in Canada, where you can actually see what's going on the screen. Imagine that, kind of a novel approach. You know, they can see the screen, you can see the screen, but this place was a little different. Not only did they do that, the person taking our order is standing next to the screen with us right here, and as we're taking the order, she's repeating it back and pointing to the menu to make sure that that order is exactly right. So they threw in some extra steps to drive down the wad of error. Likelihood or probability. See, the key here is we want to reduce risk. And Ken did a great job in his presentation yesterday of talking about the difference between looking at the probability associated with risk and then the consequence associated with risk. And I'm going to mainly focus on reducing the likelihood of error, okay? Almost as proactive as I can be. But yeah, we'd stack up the safeguards.